Hi guys, how are you? Do you want to hear the story of a British artist who once tied himself to the mast of a ship during a storm?
Wait, he did what?
He wanted to feel the power of nature so he could paint it for real.
That sounds crazy. I definitely want to hear this story.
Today, we are going to discover the story of a famous British artist, Joseph Mallord William Turner, who became well known for painting storms, light, and the powerful forces of nature. Have you ever looked up at the sky just before a storm and noticed how the clouds twist and turn? Or seen a beautiful sunset shimmering on the water and wanted to capture that image by quickly taking a picture or making a drawing? Turner did this all the time, and he didn't just look at these natural phenomena from far away. According to one famous story, he once asked sailors to tie him to the mast of a ship during a storm so he could watch the waves and the wind more closely. But why do you need to know about him? Because Turner had a very special talent. He could paint not just what nature looks like, but what it feels like. When people look at his painting, they don't just see waves or sunlight, they almost feel the wind, the rain, and the glowing light of the sky. And his stories teaches us something important too. Great artists are often curious explorers of the world around them. So let's go back to the beginning and discover how a quiet boy from London became the artist who chased light and storms. Turner was born in London in 1775 in a narrow, busy street near Covent Garden. You might be wondering, how did Turner become such a great painter of nature if he grew up in the middle of a busy city like London? When Turner was young, his mother became very ill, and he was sent to live for a time with his uncle by the seaside in the town of Margate. There, he spent hours watching the sea, the waves, and the changing sky. And those days by the sea helped spark his lifelong fascination with nature, and he began drawing clouds, boats, and landscapes. But Turner didn't just draw quickly and move on. He observed carefully. He noticed how the sun reflected on the water, how the sky changed colors at sunset. Have you ever watched the sky for a few minutes and noticed how quickly the colors change? Turner was a child prodigy, and he was accepted into the Royal Academy of Art in London at just 14 years old. There, Turner worked hard to refine his technique. He studied drawing, he learned from other artists, and practiced constantly. Landscape and nature became his favorite subjects. But at that time, many people believed landscapes were not very important. Artists were expected to paint kings, heroes, or historical events. And Turner thought differently. He believed that nature itself could be just as powerful and meaningful as any grand story, and he was determined to change the way artists think about landscape painting. But he didn't want to paint landscapes simply to show what they look like. His real goal was to capture how he felt when he looked at them: the movement of the clouds, the energy of the sea, the glow of the sky, and the changing light. Because of this, he is often called a pre-impressionist. Later, artists in a movement called Impressionism painted quick impressions of a moment, focusing on light and color rather than small details. Turner was already doing something very similar. Another important part of Turner's life was his curiosity about the world. He loved to travel and explore new places. He traveled all over England, Scotland, and Wales, through France and across Europe, filling sketchbooks with mountains, sea, forests, and ancient cities, collecting inspiration for his future paintings. While traveling, he paid special attention to light, how the same place could look completely different depending on the time of day or the weather. Turner even studied the weather by going out in sunny, raining, stormy, and snowing conditions, because he believed that before painting something, you should experience it. Like the story of the storm and him being tied to the mast, do you remember? Have you ever noticed how the same place can suddenly look magical or gloomy when the light changes? To capture these moments quickly, Turner sometimes uses fingers or fingernails to paint, or even the back of his brush to blend the colors. And do you know what he sometimes used to absorb the extra water from his watercolors? Crusts of bread. His use of bright colors and light effects earning the nickname of the Painter of Light. Amongst the many places he visited, one city in Italy became his favorite. Can you guess which one? Venice. Why Venice? Because instead of roads, it has canals flowing between palaces and churches. The light reflected on the water create magical effects that Turner loved to paint. Turner's love for colors began when he was given a set of watercolors as a boy. He was born during the early Industrial Revolution, a time when new inventions were changing the world, including art. Artists had access to new and brighter colors, and Turner was one of the first to explore these new materials. He loved experimenting, and for him, trying a new color and see how light could transform it was exciting, almost like a science discovering a new invention. Some of his palettes and materials still exist today. And throughout his life, watercolors remain one of his favorite ways to paint. If you could invent a brand new color, what sort of color would it be? As Turner grew older, he became fascinated by storms. He loved watching powerful waves, dark clouds, and lightning, and often painted dramatic weather. One famous painting is Snowstorm's Steamboat off a harbor's mouth. In it, the sea swirls wildly around a ship caught in a storm. When people first saw the painting, some were confused and even asked, "Where's the ship?" But Turner wasn't trying to paint a perfect picture, like a photograph. He was painting the feeling of the storm. Have you ever stood outside during strong wind and felt the air pushing against you? Turner wanted viewers of this painting to feel the same power, more than focusing on details and on the ship. He also thought carefully about how people would look at his painting. He sometimes hung them high on the wall so viewers had to look up, almost as if they were looking at the sky itself. He often used simple but clever tricks to guide the viewer's eye. For example, he would place a bright light like the moon with its reflection shining across the center of the canvas to create a natural path for the eye to follow, pulling the viewers into the scene. Even though Turner loved to experiment and paint what interested him, he was also very thoughtful about capturing people's attention. Turner didn't paint only nature. He also painted new inventions that were changing the world at the time and that could be more appealing for the buyers. One exciting example is Rain, Steam and Speed, the Great Western Railway. In this painting, a train rushes across a bridge through rain and mist. At that time, trains were very new and people were amazed by how fast they could travel. Turner was able to capture the feeling of speed and excitement. But not everyone liked Turner's painting at first. At the time, many people were used to very detailed and realistic paintings. So Turner's style felt strange and confusing to them. One critic even said they looked like a lobster salad because of all the bright colors and messy shapes. But Turner wasn't trying to paint neatly. He was trying to paint light, movement, and feelings, and didn't stop experimenting. He believed artists should try new ideas, even if others don't understand them right away. Many years later, other artists were inspired by his style and created the Impressionist movement. Sometimes the most interesting ideas start out looking unusual. Have you ever made a drawing that looked different from everyone else? That might be the beginning of your own style. At the same time Turner was painting dramatic skies and glowing light, another artist in England also became famous, John Constable. People often compare the two, and a kind of friendly rivalry grew between them, but their styles were very different. Turner seems to paint the air and the light, storms, sunset, and the feeling of the sky moving all around you. Constable, on the other hand, loved to paint the earth, green field, quiet rivers, and the peaceful English countryside. Which one do you would prefer to paint, the changing sky or the calm countryside? Next time you see a sunset, a winter sky, or waves crashing on the shore, stop for a moment and really look. What colors do you see? How would you paint that moment? Because just like Turner discovered long ago, art begins with something very simple, looking closely at the world and daring to imagine it in your own way.
So tell me, what have you learned from Turner's story?
To be curious and explore new places and ideas.
It's okay to be different and try new things, even if others don't agree or understand it straight away.
That art isn't just about what we see, but about what we feel.
Exactly. And that just like Turner, you should look at the world and paint it in your own unique way.